Our panel is entitled Strategies for Harnessing the Power of Mentorship. Please allow me to introduce our very renowned speakers, Dr. Dawood Nassif, Chairman of the Board, the Bahrain Petroleum Company, BAPCO, and Board Director, National Oil and Gas Authority, NOGA, Mr. Jean-Christophe Durand, CEO, National Bank of Bahrain, Group CEO and Board Member, Gulf International Bank, Mr. Abdulaziz AlHelaissi, Ms. Najla Shirawi, CEO, SICO, Ali Baqali, Acting CEO, Aluminum Bahrain, Alba, Mr. Ali Moosa, Managing Director, Executive Officer, J.P Morgan, and of course our moderator, Mr. Ronnie, Hammad, Resident Advisor, World Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, you are please welcome to the stage to start your panel.
$350 million. That's the number of new jobs the Middle East and North Africa region has to create by 2050, according to demographic trends. In this region, more people, young people, are more educated, have more access to education than their parents. But their income opportunities are significantly less. In most countries in the world, higher education is the same as higher income, except in the Middle East and North Africa. A World Bank study asked participants, does education improve your chances in the job market? How many people thought so? Any thoughts? Just throw a number. Throw a number. 40%. 75. 8. 92% of participants did not think education, that what they were studying in school was preparing them to be able to do their jobs. What is taught in schools has no correlation to work or life. No, 1,000 no's. So this is the context of what these CEOs are dealing with. This is the intake of employees that they are going to be, and you guys are actually recruiting. The CEO of IBM at a conference recently in Washington was asked, he was having a conversation. He said, you know, we were applying for a job and it said, we want a programmer. He needs to do some JavaScript. And the guy looked at him inside. He said, JavaScript, that's so passé. The big thing now is C++. They said, C++? That's passé. It's Python now. And the chief technology officer tells him, Python, that's going to expire in 3 months. So how do we recruit somebody for a job that we don't even know what the skill sets required are in 3 months? Rana talked about artificial intelligence, 3D digital printing, disruption in the technology, how jobs are going to be changing. This is the context to what we are. So today we have a big challenge, is harnessing the power of mentorship. And we have a very distinguished panel that was already introduced, so I won't introduce them again. But before I go to the panelists, I just want to go back to you again. It's going to take a couple of minutes before I turn to them. I want you to turn to the person next to you. And for just a couple of minutes, I want you to think about this question. Think about an experience you had with someone that touched you, inspired you, made you want to change your behavior, or the course of study, or the course of your career. In 3 minutes, just want to do it really quickly. Just talk to somebody next to you. I'm looking for, what is it about that advice? What is it about that conversation that really made you want to use it, that changed your behavior, that made you want to do something differently? Just go ahead. Share. Create some energy in the room. 3 minutes. That's the point. Welcome back. Who'd like to share? I have somebody back there who wants to share. Back there. Anybody else? Can I get your attention, please? Yes. Go ahead. You have a mic? So we want to do this with great velocity. I want to try to get a sprinkle of people from the room. So just tell us kind of, what was it about that advice that was really helpful? You don't have to tell us the whole advice, but just what was it about it that was really impactful?
Hi everybody, my name is Wafa. I'm JC's PA from NBB. The advice is actually go after your passion, listen to yourself. And I just want to share a small experience. In 2017, I really wanted to do an Ironman. So I was thinking about how can I do it. Then I saw Sheikha Sheba, she's here, by coincidence sitting next to me. And I thought that if Sheikha can swim, bike and run with one hand, and I have a full body, why I can't do it? So then I trained for 6 months in 2018, and I managed to do the Ironman because of actually Sheikha, and she inspired me, she motivated me to do that.
Terrific. Somebody else.
Thank you.
Somebody else? Are you guys all shy? You're here, you want to be mentored and you want to be shy and like, I just want to hear what's to be told? Is that how mentorship works?
Somebody here, Ronnie?
Yes. Can we get a mic here? Chairman Rumahi was making the point. You want to be mentored? You gotta take your life in your own hands.
I think the mic went there.
So we need a mic here.
The mic went there.
And then there's another mic back there if possible.
Hello, everybody. Really, I'm very glad to make it and be here for the day. Maybe I'm Dr. Nasreen Al-Qasir, Chief Risk Officer, one of the very first females got approved by Central Bank Bahrain as a female being Chief Risk Officer. My success, where I stand today, is behind a leader from home. It's my mother, who lost her husband when I was 5-year-old with 5 kids. So there, she raised us all to be leaders, passion, support yourself financially, because we were going through very difficult life at that time. She was a credit businesswoman who was taking things from grocery, selling it on credit for neighbors so that she can make some money out to raise 5 kids. My sister, Dr. Naima Al-Qasir, is the first ambassador WHO on a GCC level. She's based in Khartoum now. I'm the second. She wanted every son to be at a PhD level, but at least 2 of us got it. But the rest are all MBA or degree level. And now she's running after her grandchild, challenging them. I'll attend your graduation if you reach master and PhD level. So my success, my advice experience is my leader at home, is my mother.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So in an audience of 300 people, 3 women spoke up. So that's an interesting thing compared to the panel that we have here. But I think one of the points that we get, and I apologize that I have to turn my back to you because I have to face my panelists, is that a lot of them were modeling this behavior. People who embodied what I'm taking, somebody who was modeling the behavior and being a stand for who you are and who you could be. Because sometimes we get advice from a lot of people, but it's not the same as somebody who really touches us. So I'm trying to get at, what is it that touches us? Dawood, who touched you in your life to make you the success that you are?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Many people touches us through our life, through our journey of life, from our younger age, from school to high school to university, working life. And it's a journey. Mentorship is a journey. We need to learn from this journey. By the way, I'm not a believer in structured mentorship. I think mentorship is something you learn as you go through your career and different stages of life. When I remember being in primary school, I still remember the teachers and the things that influenced me. In high school, likewise.
Tell me about a conversation that really made a difference. Because I know it's nice to say a lot over the years, but
no, let me get through it. Then at university, you're assigned a tutor or a mentor, and that's critical. And his conversation right from day one on what to expect and the journey ahead of me. And don't be disheartened, you have to carry on and complete this. By the way, I studied chemical engineering, which is not an easy subject, so to speak, and it's a dry subject. So you have to have a lot of mentoring to take you through this process. Then comes your career, and my career is in the oil industry. And and you're assigned a mentor right from the beginning as a young engineer, or a young whatever, accountant, lawyer in the organization. And that mentorship, that association with that mentor is critical, because you're given for the next 5 years of your initial journey through your career, what I call individual development program. They developed you from being a theoretical person. Remember, university degree only gets you to level 0. From there you start. And a lot of people think you got the university, now you're going to be a manager. No, I'm sorry, you're level 0. That's where you start your career. And that mentor, he was at the time, at the end of his career, his experience and his guidance through my initial years was invaluable. Okay.
Why?
Why? Because you have to embrace, you have to take experience and enjoy it, because that's so important in your early years. This is where you're going to capture experience, information, etc. Because later on, I take all this through the journey, and where I am now, believe me, it's very lonely in that chairman's office when you have to make some hard decisions that affect people, and that's the most important asset we have, is people, and affect the economy of this country, because we're the biggest contributor to the economy of this country. So every decision you make, it has to be calculated. You have to draw on all the mentorship experience through these years. And my career took me, and again, I go back to what Khalid said, don't stand still, you have to keep moving. I spent about 10 years of my career in the industry outside Bahrain, okay? When I was told you go to Singapore, I went. You go to Sydney, I went. You go to Dallas, you go to Chicago, you go to Cape Town, you go. I went to all of these. And each one brought a different experience, different mentorship. That enriches your career and your training. Today, unfortunately, that mentorship is sort of not as strong as it used to be. We need to work on it. And you have made a good observation. 3 ladies came to the forum, 3 or 4 ladies, not a single gentleman came across. But I can see most of the audience is ladies, which is refreshing. And mentorship also has to give equal opportunity to both genders. Unfortunately, not only here, everywhere we don't do that. And
so let me just start, because I want to try to get
you're going to go somewhere else.
I have 6 panelists, and I got to manage it very well.
But give me another chance later.
I will give you another chance. You will have another chance. Everybody will have another chance. You can even ask each other questions. So this is a conversation, and I want to manage it tightly because I really want to get to a few points. I just want to start with your own personal experience, because I think people here are interested in what is it? What was that one conversation, or maybe a couple, that really got you to where you are? Let me start with Najla, because she's right.
Sure.
She's
I'll be very brief. Good morning, everyone. So in terms of the experience that had most impact on my career is basically the mentorship, the natural mentorship relationship that I had with my predecessor, our ex-CEO. It lasted for 14 years. And he was not the first CEO that I have dealt with. However, he was naturally he became my mentor. The mentorship relationship started from human needs. He needed some of, we were a small team in SICO, he needed some of the people in the organization to be loyal to him, to be his team, a team that he can trust. And I was a member of that team. When he joined, we were only 25, 30 employees. This relationship, I think, grew to really put a path to my career and to my leadership role, because he gave me access to his network. I think this is the differentiating factor in all the mentorship, the natural mentorship relationships that I had throughout my career. In our culture, it's not easy for women to build networking and to be a person who has already the relationship, the contact list, and the network. So by him really opening up very early on and giving me access to his network, it made me a different person. It made me see the end very early on. And one other thing that he encouraged excellence. So the harder I work, I will still need to exceed the expectation. And his expectations were very high. So it was never enough. And he always said that the harder the job, the more complicated, the soonest you're going to get recognized. Thanks.
Jean-Christophe, last night we had dinner and I asked you about your mentor and you said, what's that? And
You asked me about?
About your mentor, and you said, what mentor? And
No, what I said is the culture I originate from in France, we don't really have mentors. I told you the story, I was astonished the other day. I was talking to my daughter who just started to work in the US, and she said, oh, I'm going to have a drink with my mentor. I said, but you just started. I said, yeah, I was assigned a mentor the first day I came into the firm. So in France, it's a bit different. You go into the firm, push you in the water, swim, and we'll see how far you can go. So I don't have this experience of mentorship. And there is also, again, it's a cultural thing, a different concept of mentors. Mentor can be a bit like godfather. You know, he's a guy who hired you, who follows your career.
Godfather the movie or Godfather?
It could be a bit of both, yes. Sometimes there is, go beyond what should be done. So you look for networks, and that's, I would say, the way it worked. Now, just to take an example of what changed, a conversation which changed my career, I would start by saying it didn't change much because I started as a banker, and 30 years later, I'm still a banker. So it's not in the business, but more. I started with a bank, a French bank, which doesn't exist anymore. Was taken over, and I was here in Bahrain, and I had a lot of pressure, we had pressure from another bank to join. And you know how it is, it's 12 years, 13 years, 14 years, it's like a marriage, you can't leave. And I had a conversation with our chairman at the time, because it was more a bank, and the chairman liked the region very much, like me, and he came very often. And he had left, and he went to the other bank, and he called me, and we talked, and I met him in the future, and he said, JC, it's time to jump. So because he's somebody I trusted, he was a chairman, he had a very successful man, so I believed him. But it still took me days, going to the office with my letter in the pocket and going back home, still with my letter in the pocket. So it was a difficult choice, but at the end, when I joined the new firm, I had regular, but it was informal, not a structured type of mentorship. Meetings to get me acquainted with the culture, the way I should progress, the way I should behave in this new firm.
Thank you very much. Abdulaziz?
Hi. Let me, first of all, thank you very much for having us, Jean-Christophe, merci beaucoup. So let me just start by just pointing out something that I think is critically important here. As CEOs, we have a lot of people come to us and they say, well, where's my career progression? What are you doing about it? What is my career path, etc. Just my view is, having been through that for many, many years, you actually make your own career path. You design it. It's how much you put into it, and it's not anybody's God-given right to have a career path unless they put their effort into it and they make the most of it. That's from experience. So a couple of things that I'd like to highlight, 2 experiences that changed in my life. In my history, I've been 30 years, 6 organizations. I've been CEO for a number of years, very proud to have served the organizations. When I started almost 30 years ago, so back in 1991, I had this American boss. His name was Steve. I was a junior at the corporate bank, and I kept on going to him, asking him for advice on how I write a proposal, the 6 C's of credit, etc. He took me into this room one day. I had completed my first proposal. He took me into this conference room, and I can still remember that conference room today. And he puts me in there, and he starts critiquing the proposal, because I really put a lot of effort and a lot of time, and I thought it was really, really wow, right? But actually, I didn't know what good looked like. I really didn't know what good looked like. So he starts critiquing, and he starts critiquing, and it's having a bit of a hindrance on my confidence. But he continues. That was the best lesson I learned. You know, mentoring doesn't necessarily mean that he has to be nice or she has to be nice to you. Mentoring can actually mean sometimes be firm, because people learn when you're firm. He raised my standard, and I apply that standard, or at least I try to apply that standard with the people that work for us. That's my one experience. The second experience, Ronnie, this is even, so the back end of my career, you know, I wish I could retire tomorrow, but we're not there yet. As the CEO of GIB, I took a decision to actually be coached and be mentored. So I brought somebody from outside. First of all, as a CEO, it's actually quite a lonely place. Sometimes you have to make very difficult decisions, and you don't know whether it's a right or the wrong decision. Sometimes there's a bit of panic. So you need that sense of, you know, stability, somebody pragmatic, somebody wise, to actually give you the right support. So there's a person who has been working with me very closely, who will attend my off-site meetings, sometimes attend the board meetings, and then I will sit with him. And when I sit with him, he will say, well, Abdulaziz, I think you should have done this, I think you should have done that. There was one very specific instance that he described. We were at an off-site with a management team. And during the conversations, we had some very honest conversations. During those conversations, this gentleman, I reacted to certain things. He took me to the side and he goes, Abdulaziz, there are two types of leaders. There is the king and there is the warrior. The king is the person who knows what's going on, and he's able to delegate and create accountability to the person he delegates. And then there's the warrior. And the warrior will look at a situation, and sometimes he will react to that situation. And he might react negatively, and it might create some negative energy within the organization. And he said to me, I want you to be a little bit more of a king than a warrior. My sense was that your behavior, at times, you were reacting to things that you needn't to react to. So I think that even at the highest level, having a coach, having a mentor is very, very helpful indeed. Thank you.
So what I'm getting from this is that there's somebody who can speak a little bit of, what's the word, expression to power, you know, like truth to power, and can tell you things that maybe your colleagues and people around you might not be able to tell you. And there's people who are pushing you beyond what you think you might be able to do. And there are people who are actually modeling embody certain extraordinary capabilities. And you say, if they can do this, I can do that.
Ronnie, just on that, just for 2 seconds. Whoever that mentor is, they need to be trustworthy. They need to be somebody you can count on. You need to be able to share some of your personal experiences, because your personal experiences play a very important role on how you behave professionally. And somebody who has your interests in mind. That would be my tips.
Beautiful. It's my perfect segue, because I wanted to get this question, because you made the point about how everybody should be responsible for their own career. And I get that. But in a highly an organizational structure that is very hierarchical, where in a culture where people are told what to do, in an education system where people come and they're basically told how to do it, in a culture of consulting firms where people come and they come up with a solution and they're telling you, go implement, you're proposing something a bit counter to the whole notion of take over your own career. So there's something, that notion is counter, I suspect. And I wanted to ask this to Ali, because I think Ali works in an organization, I live in Bahrain, one of the largest in the world. They have some extraordinary standards that they have to meet, some major compliance issues that they have to meet in. How do you kind of create a culture where people can do that without it being just somebody from the top telling them what to do? So I just want to see if you could maybe tackle that one point.
As you said, Alba is a very large company. We have 3,200 employees. and it's not easy.
How many employees?
3,200. It's not an easy to train all of them, but we have a systematic approach and we have a flexible approach. In a systematic approach, we have a master training plan across the whole organization to mentor and develop and coach every individual employee. Just we sign off before a few months, is tackle the skills, technical skills, because unlike the other industries, the manufacturing industry is different. You have to focus more on safety. You have to focus more on teamwork, because individual, it will not work in big organizations. The teamwork and the concept and the change mind from the fixed mindset to the growth mindset is very important. They have to think out of the box, and they have to think that they are own the company. Otherwise, you will not spirit the culture. Culture is very important to spirit the training. Just as an example, just recently, because of the Line 6 expansions, we recruited 500 employees. Imagine that for the 500, we assign with individual employee a mentor to be a shadow for him. Just because we believe that in the shop floors, you have to guide the people to protect them from the safety aspects, to protect them from all the hazards. That's why it was a successful journey for Alba, actually. And the new generation, actually, they've proven themselves also in terms of the commitment, in terms of skills. We had the new line with the new technology, but what I see today, the new generation or the new employee with just 1 year training on the basic things, they are managing the largest line in the world perfectly, efficiently, and safely. I would like also to share experience, because not always you have a good mentor. Sometimes you have a bad mentor also. In my life, actually, it changed my life completely from the bad mentor to the good mentor. And it's not in Alba, actually. It was in a different company I was working before. I was studying by my own, sponsoring my own self for the professional qualification called CIPS, Chartered Institute of Purchasing and Supplies. When I gained the certificate, and I was very happy. I was young, motivated, professional qualification. Very few people, they have it in Bahrain. I went to my boss, my mentor. I told him, finally, I got it. After a few years, I got the certificate. The reaction from him, really, it's make me change my life whole. Otherwise, I will not change the company. He told me, just keep it on the shelf. It will not add any value to you. To that stage, how imagine yourself, you are proud, study by yourself, and spend time, effort, and the result is like you get not appreciated. But this motivated me to change my work, to go for a better job. And even when I start from zero, I got another good mentor. He picked me, as Khalid said in his speech, he picked me from the organization. I was a purchasing officer. I mentor gradually from position to position. And today I am acting CEO of Alba, the largest industry in Bahrain.
Congratulations. So what I'm taking is, to improve performance requires a whole range of skill sets. Yeah. It is about getting the right training. It is about coaching. It is about mentoring. It is about staff development. It is about having people push you. It's about pushing for excellence. It's a whole range of things. J.P. Morgan, Ali.
Thank you. What a great and exciting topic. I say that because this topic is very close to my heart. When I joined, just reflecting back, like everybody else, 1993, before most of you in the room were born, I joined Chase Manhattan Bank at that time. I joined with a lot of passion. I joined with willingness to learn every day. And I joined in a way that I really wanted to develop my banking experience. So really, like most of the panelists mentioned, that mentorship and the future always start with you. So these were, the way I was thinking from day one. Secondly, when I joined the largest institution at that time, Chase Manhattan, which is the result of many mergers today, become J.P. Morgan, I always believed in a change. From day one, I was going to my manager and I was challenging the status quo, and I was asking why we can't improve this process, why we cannot use automation, why we cannot bring different way of approaching writing proposals to the customers. So I think with challenging the status quo and believing in a change made some of my management believe in me. So it always starts with you. I remember after a few years, like any young Bahraini, for a few hundred more dinars, you want to jump to the next job. And I went to my boss at that time, a senior country officer of the region in Bahrain, and I said, I want to move to another institution in Bahrain. And he said, Ali, I believe in you. And I can see you replacing me one day in Bahrain. So please be patient. I'll make sure that you have all the tools, you have all the ability, you have the right mentorship, and you have the right networking. Because I do believe in your skills and your potentials to take my job one day. And that has really opened my eyes that, that could be possible. And after years, he was, at his word, and I was the first Bahraini to hit J.P. Morgan in Bahrain and the region. So that has really given me the trust, and I moved towards that. But the change also doesn't come individually. I always believe in teamwork, and I think the power always comes that you make your team part of the success. You just don't live it yourself, and bring everybody to believe on what you want to achieve, and also give them the credit when you achieve something. So that has really changed my life at J.P. Morgan.
Thank you so much. I'm told I only have 10 more minutes, which is strange because we started half an hour late, but that's okay. I don't want to leave this panel before we talk about one topic. At the World Bank, if a male staff member looks at a job description and he meets 30% of the requirements, he applies and doesn't think twice. If a female sees the job description and she meets 80% of the job requirements, she's questioning herself and is not sure what to do. So my sense is that mentoring men, particularly perhaps in this culture, and mentoring women has very different elements. And I'm wondering whether I can get any one of you to maybe want to just touch base on this topic. You have a two-hander. I'm going to start with you, and then we can go down the... Who wants to really tackle? So I'll get back to you in a second. So Dawood. So let's go Najla, Dawood, and then we'll go back to Alba.
I think women doubt that they could do the job because they are forward-looking. So they actually evaluate whether they will be able to perform that job for a long period of time, while their male counterpart would look at whether they can fit for the job, whether they can win it immediately. And therefore, if you see the difference as a female working in an investment bank, I see my female colleagues always doubting whether they are going to have enough support, whether they will have the network, whether the team will be supporting them, not necessarily only their predecessor, their superiors, but also their juniors. So it's all about whether women will think like men, whether we can win the job, what happens later, it's in God's hand.
So we can mentor as much as we want and we can sponsor as much as we want, but they sense that once they get there, they might be alone. And so one of the things, what do we need to think about, Mr. CEO, when you are trying to push people towards excellence and push people beyond their skills, what support do we need to provide them, particularly women, in this new role?
Simply give them equal opportunity. Women have to, fight their way as a woman, fight her way professionally, to be equal with the male colleagues, and then excel to be able to be chosen.
But that assumes everybody has a level playing field.
Well, we don't at the moment. It's important that you give them equal opportunity in their development. And in many places, we don't. Once you do that, then you make the choice. Don't choose her because she's a woman, choose her because she's the best fit for the job. And if you give them that equal opportunity, they'll have the confidence. But if you don't, they'll always feel they're going to be less able to do or continue in that path. And we do it day in and day out. And look at the numbers speak for themselves. Okay? How many people, women we have on board of directors? How many we have in executive management? How many we have even in middle management? Somehow we go up somewhere in the middle and it stops. And very few filter up the top. If you give them the equal opportunity, give them the training they want, take them to executive management training, they will excel. But if you're going to try to derail them or not give them the equal opportunity, then of course they're going to doubt their ability.
I would say most people would argue with you that you might have to do something more than just equal opportunity. But let me give it to Ali.
I just want to share, some people believe that we have a shy culture in the Middle East, but I do believe that giving equal opportunities to women and create the diversity and inclusions that we all hope for is not just a Middle East, it's an international issue because women have more challenges than men. And I got an opportunity in 2005 to create a Woman on the Move chapter for Middle East for J.P. Morgan. And you won't imagine listening to the other voice of the woman bring a complete fresh perspective and change the way we believe and work. So we created one initiative which I really want to share with this crowd is that something we called 30, 5, and 1. What that means that each senior leader should spend 30 minutes with one of the women colleagues within the workspace, and that's the 30. Then focus 5 minutes by talking positively about something that she has achieved, and then the 1 minute, or the one, introduce her to one senior man in the organization, to the next senior men. Why? Because I think women feel shy, women doesn't, join a lot of social gathering. So spending 30 minutes talking to her about 5 minutes of something that she has achieved and introduce her to the next senior men, it creates a massive change in the organization, and this we have done and has been made a big success.
I'm going to give you the two final words, Abdulaziz and Jean-Christophe, because I know you have a big announcement to make and you've made some major contributions. So maybe I could start with Abdulaziz and then I'll end with Jean-Christophe, because I think you have
I think, well, you put me on the spot here, but if you look at my bank, it's not only equal opportunity. I go back, you want to put the best person on the job, whether they're male or female. We have the first, I think in the region, the first group treasurer who is a woman in the entire region, which is an accomplishment. We have a head of UK who is a woman. We have the head of HR who is a woman. We have a number of wonderful women who are coming up the ranks. So we're very proud of what we have done. We are part of REACH, and I think that the team here know what our contribution is in terms of trying to develop the skill set of our women. But I think most importantly, I've said this many years ago in a conference in Washington, I personally think that women actually work a lot better than men. I mean that.
Let's get it. Jean-Christophe, final word.
On that topic, I just wanted to add a few words. It's, to a certain extent, I agree with Dawood that equal opportunity is a prerequisite. But I think the most important is mindset. It's at the management mindsets. So if you have people at the head of organizations who do not make a difference and have that in their minds, not to fix an existing situation, but just the normal selection process, and they have in mind that you know, any lady can be head CEO and so on, I think it will change. So you can try to put mechanism, but I don't believe in mechanism. I think everything is in mindset. So that's, and I'll give you an anecdote. When I joined NBB, a lady came to see me from the bank, of course, and you know I was new, so I say, what do you want to do? I want your seat. So you know, some ladies are still very ambitious. So you know, and my job is to give her the opportunity one day to have this seat.
On that note, let's give our panelists a huge warm thanks. This was a very enlightening conversation. These are really the future leaders. They are the leaders of Bahrain. I hope they will set a trend and set an example for other employers who are looking to empower their individuals, change the corporate culture. But really, I want to make that point about the mindset. With a mindset to see who has the best potential to really exceed, and to have a view of particularly the women, identifying those talents and identifying the structures of support that are needed for them to succeed. Thank you very much. And
thank you very much, our dear panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, I know you're eager to go on the coffee break and do more networking, but before we do that, the National Bank of Bahrain have an announcement to make. So I'd like to invite the CEO, Jean-Christophe Durand, to make the announcement on stage.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to make this announcement. As Ronnie said, yesterday when we talked about mentorship, he found that I was a bit weak on the topic. So I should say that I was indeed weak, a few years ago. But one of the mission, or I would say even the main mission I have at the National Bank of Bahrain, is to build workforce leadership, banking leadership of tomorrow. And that goes by making all efforts in any corners of the organization to ensure that we have the best teams. So we started by creating a talent program, by recognizing our best staff, to give them the opportunity to be exposed to different activities, different projects, and so on. But we thought we needed to go further. And although, as mentioned earlier, I didn't have much experience in mentorship, we decided to launch the first mentorship program in the banking industry here in Bahrain, which is called Inspire. And interestingly, we had a very strong demand internally. We had, of course, it raised a lot of expectations, and the mentees which were selected, and it's a broad population, could select their mentors. And I think that's how it should start. They should look towards growing in the organization, or outside of the organization. We start this program at NBB level, but our vision is a program for the market, for Bahrain in general, for the country. And it's important that we start giving all these talented individuals the opportunity to learn more and learn beyond what they are doing just now. So congratulations to the mentees who are in the room today. And NBB is definitely very committed to make it a success for the bank and for Bahrain in general. Thank you.